Welcome to Walpole United WFC. Welcome to Walpole United with me, John Foster, MUFC. I'm really happy, not because we won, but the actual stream's actually working. So my computer hasn't quite crashed on me just yet. I think I need to sort that out over the summer period, but I'll go through that at some point. Thank you to everybody joining us already. We've already got 10 people waiting in the comments, so thank you very much for that. So Manchester United 3, West Ham 0. Really entertaining game, and we'll get into that throughout the show. Absolutely, it's going to be a very positive show because we won it, and it was our last home game, and it's pretty much what we wanted. So yeah, we'll get into it. First of all, let's just say hello to everybody. Connor, how you doing, mate?
Yep, all good from my side.
Awesome. Charlie, you okay, mate?
Yes,
yeah, I'm good.
very good. Oh,
I thought it said John. Sorry.
What did you say? What did you say?
I said Charlie. I did say
All
Charlie.
right.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm good. Thank you, John. Yeah, good.
Nice one. Go on, John. You okay, mate?
Yeah, good to be back on. So thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. I've got to shout out your shirt with the laces. It's one of my favourite ones. So yeah, I'm just got to give that a bit of a shout out. It's love to see it. Absolutely, yeah. Lots of things I want to get into today. Obviously, the game itself, really creative, created loads of chances. This time we actually converted our chances. I'm sure if we can remember the amount of chances that we did have. So we'll get into that. I want to talk a little bit about Jackie when she was subbed off. You know, we was looking out for it. You know, last home game, was she going to give that extra long wave? In my opinion, she did. But Charlie did remind me at the game, she often does that. So I'm not too sure. But to me, I think there was a little bit extra there. So I wanted to have a little talk about that as well. We'll be speaking a lot on this channel for the last couple of weeks about Skinner's Plan B. You know, was that Plan B yesterday, or was it just Plan A that actually worked well? So we'll talk about that. And also the starting lineup, unchanged. So plenty of things to get into. Thank you to everybody in the comments already. We'll put them on screen and answer those as we go along. But let's just get everyone's summary of the game yesterday and the actual day itself, with it being our last home game of the season. My throat is a bit croaky, so apologies for that. It tends to be every now and again on a Monday. It has got a lot better throughout the day. Connor, what were your assessments on yesterday, mate?
You're worrying me now because my throat's hurting today, and it's not to do with shouting because I didn't do that much shouting yesterday, so I don't quite know why. You've got to be worried now that I've picked up something. Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it? Because ultimately, I think we've all kind of accepted that we go to the end, you know, and all that, you know, positivity. But I think we've all accepted that it probably is done now, you know, for the top three. So it had a weird kind of testimonial almost vibe about it. Just let's get the win and just enjoy it, rather than we need to win this because of this. And it was just let's just get the win because, you know, pressure's off and that kind of thing. And in some ways, that probably helped. Just having that lack of pressure on us, that it doesn't really matter, you know, if we don't win or not. Obviously, we all wanted to. We didn't want to go, as Charlie said, go out and, you know, lose to Chelsea heavily. That could have been a bad end to the season, and that's all people would have remembered. Then is the last kind of few games of the season. But no, there's plenty to dive into. Like I said this all week, all last week, the amount of shows I was on, I said there was nothing wrong with our style of play against Villa. It just didn't materialise. We played exactly the same way yesterday. We'd scored 3. We should have scored more, same as we should have scored more against Villa. So yeah, it was just a commanding performance. But there's so much to dive into. There's so many, you know, players to shout out and all of those kind of things. But it was just a normal United performance this season, to be honest. It's just this time we took our chances and didn't let them. We didn't hang on. You know, we didn't not take our chances. So we were hanging on to a 1-goal lead towards the end. We didn't allow them to be able to nick a draw towards the end. So that was good. Yeah,
absolutely. And Charlie, I'm sure you've got some facts and figures in front of you anyway, because I know that you tend to do a bit of research, which is good. But just to read out just a couple of things, 19 goal attempts, which was one more than it was in the previous game, and 7 on targets, which was one more than the previous game. But this time we actually scored 3 of those chances. The stats look really dominant. Do you think it was a dominant performance by us?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I do have the stats in front of me, actually. Thanks.
Okay, I thought you might.
Yeah, it was a really good performance. I think we said when the players were warming up, I think I'd turn around. I was probably talking to you two actually, because I know John's on the other side, isn't he? It will know really early on whether they've checked out or not. Whether they feel like the opportunity's gone for the Champions League, but actually they hadn't at all, which I thought was a real positive. They really went for it, and they played with pride, and they wanted to put on a good performance for the fans, which sometimes in lots of different areas of football you can find that if players think an opportunity has gone to achieve what their aim was, if they think that's gone, they sort of check out a little bit, and perhaps, and I was sort of waiting to see if it looked like they were going to jump out of tackles and bits and pieces with the Euros coming up. I also wondered if there may be an element of that, but there wasn't at all. It was a really good, a really gutsy performance. The big change, obviously, you just said the stats were dead similar. The thing that massively changed was the pass accuracy. So that was only just pretty much 70% last weekend, whereas yesterday it was 86%.
Wow.
And that was the massive difference maker. So those sort of intelligent balls that sort of people like Katie and Jackie are trying to make, either more accurate or the players were making the right runs to get onto them. So it was a much better performance, and it felt like quite a fluid performance. It didn't feel like they were just doing one thing. It felt like they were playing really well with the ball to feet, quick 1-2 touch, which we see in the warm-up often but sometimes don't see in the game. They were doing that really well, but then also picking out the long ball really well, which was cutting out the West Ham midfield. So there was all sorts of real positive things going on. A part of that I think was probably because the pressure maybe feels like it's off them a little bit, which I think is probably another thing entirely that we need to talk about being able to perform when there's pressure and then being able to perform when there's not. But all in all, it was a good last home game to the season. Big crowd, good crowd from us, and the players put on a show, which is what you want really at this point in the season.
Yeah, we'll come back to some of them points about the show then, Charlie. John, you were sitting next to Barry and Andrew on your side. Charlie mentioned a good attendance there. I think it was 2,500, which is great. What were yours? What was the general consensus of the performance on your side where you were sitting, John?
Yeah, well, I think we were obviously very pleased with the overall performance. I thought we were good value for our win. I think the only time where we perhaps weren't on top of our game was maybe the period between 30 and 40 minutes when we were giving the ball away a lot and that kind of thing, and that West Ham to have a few chances. But yeah, I think overall we did control the game. It was just the only chance West Ham had really was when we were giving the ball away in the first half at times. But yeah, I think it helped getting the first goal and the second goal early, because we have done that regularly, particularly at home. This is when we have gone 1 or 2-0 up in the first 20 minutes. And I was joking with Barry. It's like, this isn't bad. A goal every 10 minutes will do it. So, but no, I think the consensus was that we played well. I think it was a typical home performance this season, that we have done relatively well at home this season. We have got a few good results. It's mainly been away from home where we've obviously dropped out points and that kind of thing. But I like to know the stats for the number of goals we score in the first half, because I'm obviously sat at the opposite end to where the singing section is. I've got a feeling most of our goals have come at my end this season as opposed to the other end, which indicates we tend to be better at starting games and getting goals early, and then fading a bit in the second half. Obviously, we did get the crucial third goal, but I do think the best sense to obviously tie, which we've obviously discussed numerous times. But yeah, overall we could have won by more on another day, but then again, you've got to argue West Ham might have scored on another day. So I think we were good value for the win, and it was a good end at home to the season for us.
Yeah, I agree, Johnny. It was a very pleasant game. We got 1-0 up early. It kind of relaxed us, and obviously scored 2. We just looked like it was a comfortable game at the end. So I use that word comfortable. Whenever I use that word comfortable or control now, I always think of Skinner. But yeah, no, it was a nice, pleasing game at the end. And I do agree with Connor about your opening statement, Connor, about it being like an exhibition kind of match. And we don't understand that in a derogatory way. It just felt like that in the crowd was a little bit more relaxed, I guess. And I think that first goal probably helped towards that. There's people in the comments mentioning Maria's performance and putting her body in the way. So I think it's just fair just to give that a bit of a shout out. So Connor, if you was one of maybe start us off on Maria with that big block she made, it knocked the wind out of it, to say the least. Knocked her down. We was a little bit worried at the time. She suffered with concussion a few times. And then literally about 10 minutes later, she took another block. But yeah, that's what she's good at, isn't it, Connor?
Yeah, and exactly that. I'm going to start with a positive because I'm going to play devil's advocate a bit here and actually say I don't think she was incredible as people are saying. She did well, don't get me wrong. She was definitely solid. She got quite a few blocks in, but a lot of those came from errors before that. So it was like almost made the error and then made up for it, which is fine if you can make up for it, but you're not always going to be able to do that. Yeah, she was solid. She's been solid all season. She's filled in a lot, obviously, with Mannion and Millie having different injuries, obviously long-term injuries as well. Maria's had to step up this season, and I think she has. I think she's, last season there was a lot of criticism of her, but she's just a solid defender. She's a proper old school defender. Doesn't mind getting stuck in. As you saw, with that block hit her straight in the face, that's going to hurt. as you saw, she went straight to the ground. It was a little bit of a worry because she just it hit her and she just fell straight back. And there was a bit of a worry that potentially that was more, but it wasn't. Yeah, she just had a solid performance, but yeah, there's still a little bit of an area of concern sometimes on that side. With Hannah and Maria sometimes. But other than that, they did well at just blocking everything that came. I don't remember, apart from one shot that Mary had to push around the post, I don't remember West Ham having another shot, to be honest. So that shows how well the defence midfield and the defence played as a whole.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Charlie, on Maria's performance?
Yeah, good. I like. I almost like a last ditch tackle or a colossal block, as much as I like a goal. So I really like to see that. And one of my favourite Man United players is Vidic. So anything that looks a little bit like that, I always enjoy quite a lot. It's interesting one about I was also looking at this about the defence, because it's been really makeshift in bits and pieces. But sort of the last 7 league games where it has been midfielders playing back there or Maria and Diane on first choice, I think they've only let in 3 goals in the 7 games, I think. Which is good, obviously, but it's like a funny one. When you watch them, obviously, when I generally talk about Maria, I'll go a bit of a tangent here if you don't mind. From set pieces, we look really strong defensively now. Obviously, Mary's solid, isn't she? She comes and claims most things, and our defenders do a good job of getting the ball away. The bigger worry for me is when teams counter against us quickly. That's when, in my opinion, I think we've struggled most defensively. So the sort of the back line we've got at the moment, or the centre backs we've got at the moment, are really good at that sort of last ditch tackle, blocking the ball. But then when they've got the ball, it's the releasing it in the right place or to the right player. That's where they struggle the most, which is obviously to be expected if you've got players out of position or players that aren't your first choice. But they did a good job yesterday. It didn't feel we didn't feel under threat massively. I think West Ham had 1 or 2 chances. I think Mary made a save, but I don't know if that one was a bit for the cameras.
Oh yeah,
it was a bit of one of them, wasn't it? She's like, this might be my only moment here, so I'm going to do an unnecessary big dive. But yeah, they were good. They were just solid. They've just been like that, haven't they? We've talked a lot about the defence and about the worries of not having Aoife and Millie as ball playing centre backs, but they've just been solid. Yeah, I think. But yeah, bits of shakiness here or there when teams are countering on us, I think.
Just touching on what you said there, I didn't realise those stats. So only 3 goals conceded in that time. I think it also shows that we haven't made any stupid errors as well. That's kind of led towards a goal. So maybe that is down to the experience that we've been playing. So there might not necessarily be experience in that role, but they will still be level-headed, not to do anything completely stupid, isn't it? So
just not scoring enough. We just haven't scored enough goals in the last 7 games.
Yeah. Well, I've got some of those stats in front of me. So 43 goals we've scored in the league this season, 18 conceded. Now, 18 conceded isn't really too bad. Obviously, it's not quite as good as the top three, but it is better than Man City. But again, 43 goals scored, and that's something that's very reminiscent of last season, not scoring enough goals. And it's just something that we need to work on going forward if we do need to break into that top three. John, just your thoughts on the defence before we start moving up the field a little bit?
Yeah, I thought the defence did very well yesterday, as Charlie mentioned. Mary, that was a tremendous block, wasn't it? And obviously caused a bit of laughter on Twitter, didn't it? But it was they defended relatively well. Like I said, there were a couple of moments in the first half where we did give the ball away. I mean, after all, that block did come from Haley giving the ball away in a dangerous position, and also there was another one the Mary's save came from Bundell misjudging the bounce, and then he played it over Haley's head and that. But aside from that, we weren't in any particular danger, I don't think. And our record in terms of at home this season, only in the league, it's only been the Chelsea game where we've conceded, more than we should have done. Obviously, City, the FA Cup and that. But I don't think, aside from Chelsea, City and Arsenal, I think they're the only teams to have scored against us at LSV this season. I know Everton scored at Old Trafford, but I think those are the big three, the only ones who have scored at LSV this season in the league, so which demonstrates we are solid defensively at home overall. And I thought Haley did well overall, and in an unnatural position for her. And it was just a good performance from defence, and we didn't look in any danger. So well done to them.
Yeah, I've left that comment on screen by Ellie, so I just throw Connor straight in there and just get his thoughts on this. What I do like though is Ellie must have come straight out and said it after the game when she met Martha. Just asked her straight out, are you staying, Martha? Just like Ellie to say that. Come on, Connor, what are your thoughts on that question?
Fuso no, Harris yes is the short answer. I can't see Martha Harris getting game time like anywhere. I don't think. She's a good player. Like I said before, we've not got a bad player in our squad, but is she an upgrade on what we've got? And is she good enough to challenge the two that we've got currently there as well? So I'm not too sure. Maria can also play fullback as well. We saw that earlier in her career. So I think Harris, yes. Fuso, no. She's still really young. She's not at game time this season, but like I said, I think that's partly down to her age. And also the fact that we had ourselves in a position that we probably didn't expect this season. I've said this before, nobody really thought we'd be in the top three race this season. They thought we'd kind of consolidate fourth. Obviously, that might be still what we do, but the fact it's been almost like a pressure cooker this season again, I don't think I guess the question you've got to ask is, has Fuso done enough to warrant more game time? I'd probably sit on the fence a little bit and say yes and no. I think earlier in the season, yes, I think she played all right when she came on in certain games. Obviously against City as well, she had some good games, but later on the season, obviously she's not been given opportunities. But you got to remember the front line have been firing. So who do you take out? Maybe Tooney, I think, could be brought off a little bit sooner in games, but then Builder's the obvious one that's coming off the bench for Tooney most of the time. So it's a real tough one. But yeah, short answer, Fuso, no, I can't see her going anywhere. But Harris, I can fully expect to see leaving.
Yeah, I reckon probably Martha Harris will go to play some football. I think Liverpool coming back up, she came from there, didn't she? So perhaps that might be a direction you see her going. But then I suppose it also depends what happens in the summer. If it looks like we're going to sign, if we need to sign additional replacements depending on who goes, and we know we've talked a lot about needing more than one good player in each position. But if the market's not there, which we don't know if it will be yet, you might just need her for numbers. But I think from a pure footballing point of view, yes. She's also been injured so often. Unfortunately, you can't really rely on her because she was brilliant in the Championship and the first season up here she was good. But I think she's just struggled with injuries and never really got back to full fitness. So I'd expect, yes, as long as we can replace numbers wise and squad depth wise. I think Ivana's looked really good whenever she's come on. I would hope she would stay. Like Connor says, she's really young. She came in the Conti Cup and she ran the show really against City when we went 1-0 down. I think we ended up beating them 2-1, didn't we, at LSV? She also looked pretty good in the Conti Cup against Arsenal, and that was quite a high stakes game. She came on and did a really, really good job there against high quality opposition. Arsenal didn't tread lightly there. They put their best 11 out, and we did not have our best 11 out for parts of that. So I would hope so. I don't know what the contract situation is. It's so weird with women's football. Like, you don't know, like, if her contract might also have run out. Like, I don't know how many, it's her second year. They don't tend to go much longer than that.
I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, if you go onto the Man United app, you can search the names that it does. You can read like the last article of them, but it is so it's very often the case. It's very secretive. So even Katie Zellum last season, it was announced. I think it was announced she signed a new contract, but they didn't say how long it was or something like that.
Yeah.
But it is a bit of a weird one, isn't it?
I reckon. I think from her we've seen enough to keep her and to maybe give us some more opportunities. But Connor's right again. It's that funny thing, isn't it, where she's. I don't know, where would you say her best position is? Because if we're saying it's you bring her on for Tooney, well, Tooney's the 10, and then Vilda's not getting game time, and you'd think, well, she's world-class footballer, so in my opinion, she would be the next one to come on. So it depends where you want her. I think she played out wide. Did she come on and play out wide against Arsenal? And she was putting in really well from the wing. And she's rapid, isn't she? She draws opposition players to her because she's so good with the ball at her feet. And Brazil keep picking her in spite of her lack of game time. So they must see something in her there. She performs quite well for them. So, I think Martha will be off. I think same as Connor, Ivana will stay, hopefully.
John, your thoughts on this one, mate?
Yeah, I agree with the points being made by Charlie and Connor. I do think Martha Harris will go. She's hardly featured she's hardly featured much, particularly the second half of the season. So, I can see her going. I think, she probably will stay. I think she has done well at times this season. Charlie mentioned getting the goal against City in the Conti Cup, and I do personally think she's better off out wide. It's possibly, in my opinion, the best position. But I think the other thing with Hughes, is she hasn't lit up the team or anything like that. I think the other thing with her is when she does tend to come on, it tends to be when we've taken some of our better players off the pitch as well. Like sometimes like when you take Russo off, you take Golden off and that kind of thing. And, when you're putting her on, like when we made all those changes yesterday, we brought Tooney, Russo, Martha and Golden, which was basically our front four. Now, Tooney didn't have the best game, but when they come on, it's like there's a momentum shift. It doesn't really look like we're going to get another one. So I think what you'd like to see with her, maybe Sarah Target is maybe to show a bit more next season and possibly just see how she does on the pitch with some of our better players, and then we'll possibly have a better idea then whether she's good enough or not. But I think at this moment she's worth keeping, and she's shown enough to be given another season.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to put that comment on screen by TJ. Now, I've not been on Twitter much last night and today, so I haven't really seen what people are saying, but I don't understand if people are criticising Skinner after yesterday, then I can't get my head around that when you just dominated the game, 68% possession and had 13 shots on target, won 3-0 and looked comfortable and made 4 subs just for the sake of it because you was already winning the game. I don't understand why it'd be criticised, but there are certain fans who have their own favourite players, I guess, and they just want to see them come on or not take it off in some cases. So it could be to do with that. But we'll move the conversation on a little bit, and obviously throughout the show, people can just jump in on that. And Norman in the comments, did you see the great goal by Molly Green for Coventry? I will shout that one out. Obviously, Molly Green was a former United player in our first season. I got my shirt signed by her. Fantastic player. I'm really glad to see her keep Coventry up in that final couple of minutes yesterday. Cracking free kick. Charlie, I'm guessing you've seen it. You're nodding your head. It was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was phenomenal. It's just perfect, isn't it? That was the relegation match, wasn't it? It was them and Watford. And 97th minute, like, I was going to say what could be better than that. What could have been better was that Coventry weren't punished for the players weren't punished for something out of their control originally, but that's been discussed to death. But yeah, it was brilliant. I thought that was phenomenal. Loved the celebrations. Absolutely loved that. And there's a couple of other ex-United players there, aren't there, as well? Naomi Hartley's there. Plays in defence of them. It's perfect. It's not nice for Watford to be relegated, but I think the situation Coventry were in, what could be better? And I did love that it was Molly Green, because she's always had that in her, hasn't she? She scored some absolutely phenomenal goals for us in the Championship. She was like, I think she was in double figures, wasn't she? She was brilliant.
She had a better first season than Ella too when it comes to like
she was phenomenal. It looked like she was going to be top scorer for a while, but then I think Lauren James and Jess Sigsworth cropped up with a few near the end of that season, but wonderful and brilliant for Coventry as well. Yeah,
absolutely. We'll answer this one, John. Do you want to answer this one first before we move on? Is Champions League still at stake? So if anyone's watching this and not quite sure what the league table is, we have played an additional game to Manchester City. That's why we are ahead of them in the league. We're on 42 points. They're on 41 points. They play Birmingham in 2 days' time. They've scored 50, we've scored 43, but we have conceded less. So I think, if my maths is correct, there's probably something like a 3-goal difference in their favour on goal average, with them having to play one more game. So, John, just your thoughts on the Champions League race?
Yeah, I mean, it's never over until it's over, though, and I think, we will have to beat Chelsea next week, stand any chance, in my opinion, and that's just not going to be easy. They're going for the league title, and I think that they will. Obviously, we've never beaten Chelsea, so the odds are stacked against us, unfortunately. That's not to say we can't do it, but I think it will be very difficult. But yeah, I think basically the only hope we have, I think, is if we beat Chelsea and City were to lose a game. I personally think that's the only way it could possibly happen. And I think, they've got to play Birmingham, isn't it? And I mean, Birmingham only lost 1-0 to Chelsea yesterday, didn't they? So it's not guaranteed by any means. But I do think, the odds are stacked again. So it's going to take, a bit of a miracle for it to happen. But yeah, of course, it's never over until it's over. And the fact that we're going into the last game with a slight chance of it, you can never rule it out. And after all, we are above them at the moment, albeit, they've got an extra game. So, all we can do is focus on beating Chelsea and hope for the best.
Yeah, I think that could potentially happen. I really do. Connor, let's move on to the rest of the players that have played yesterday. As I said, unchanged team, which meant Groden, Zellum and Ella was in the midfield 3. No surprise there. You could have potentially said Vilde Balvisa in place of probably Groningen, if anything. And Thomas kept the place out wide with Galton and Russo. What were your thoughts when you found out it was an unchanged team? Because there were options. I don't ever think that Hunter was going to probably start, but you could have said the senior could have started, which would have pushed Russo out wide. So that was one option. And I mentioned myself, Vilde Balvisa has done little wrong. She hasn't necessarily blown me away this season. I was kind of expecting a little more from her, but she hasn't really done much wrong at all. So there was a couple of options, wasn't there, Connor?
I think senior playing was not playing was the only one that surprised me. The rest of it, I think, speaks for itself. Ultimately, I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, we should have changed it." It's not the time to experiment now. There's no point. We're 2 games from the end of the season. Wait until pre-season for that. I know, you could say let's build now for pre-season and carry it on into next season, but no, that's the way he wants to play. And we've not changed that most of the season, barring the first kind of 2 or 3 games. We played slightly different, but again, that was kind of new manager and just adapting to the new ways of playing. But so it didn't surprise me. because I don't think Leah and Martha Thomas had a bad game against Villa. It was just unfortunate that Martha missed, obviously, the 3 golden opportunities in that game, which is why I was so happy for her that she scored the first one in this, because I think she needed that after the week that she had. It was, again, we know what these players can do. That's what I think frustrates me. We know they can do this. But you see games like Villa where we just miss those opportunities and then we panic, and we panic early. We don't panic like in the last 5-10 minutes. We panic around the 50th minute and start giving the ball away so often. So, yeah, it's I don't get lost at any of them. The thing is, if you just mentioned that, if you're going to rotate, who do you bring? You know, could Hansen maybe have started? I mean, yeah, she could, but has she done enough in the games where she's come on? You know, and earlier on in the season, do you think she warrants starting over Thomas and Galton and Russo right now? I don't think so. And I love Hansen, but I don't think she stakes a claim for starting. So it's a tough one. I wouldn't have started changing it now. I don't really see the need for that. But yeah, I don't know why Sinya wasn't playing or starting even. Maybe we know that she's not going to be here next season. So and judging by Leon's tweets, maybe I think that's already confirmed. Maybe she's not. So maybe Mark knows that she's not staying next season. So planning without her already. That might be the reason why. And same with Hansen. We don't know. Hansen could be on the way out as well, and that's why she's not getting picked at the moment. Plan without the players that are not going to be here next season. So maybe that's the reason. But like I said, I don't see the need to change it because they all perform well. I think the only one maybe as well was Vilda in for Jackie, but again, I don't think it would have made a whole host of difference throughout the game. So yeah. It was good that Thomas and Galton were the two kind of. I know they got the goals, and it sounds weird when they get the goals, say unsung heroes. But I'm thinking it was more their work rate I'm referring to, because when the team play a back five like Everton, like West Ham do, you've got to get in between their wing backs and their centre halves, and that's what Thomas and Galton did very well. Every ball was in those little channels between the full backs and the centre backs. So. Yeah, that's why I put on the tweet. They ran themselves into the ground because they did. Their work rate all game was phenomenal, and that's why they got the goals they deserve.
Yeah, come on, Charlie. Let's hear your thoughts on the. I saw the front 6, the midfield 3, and the front 3.
I thought the wide players. I thought all of the wide players were phenomenal yesterday. I think I turned around to within 6-7 minutes of it starting, Colin, and said to you, "Flipping it, the wide players are working hard. The fullbacks and Martha and Leah like harrying and really pressing." The West Ham players. I get West Ham and Aston Villa confused all the time. I wish they were wearing completely different coloured shirts. It's so annoying. I have to think about it every time. But I thought they were phenomenal. I thought Katie Zellum was amazing. I think that was one of her best performances I've seen in a Man United shirt. She led from the front. She played some phenomenal balls out wide. I think one was towards Leah Leah then ran onto it, and it led to Martha Thomas's goal. And she also, I think what I saw from her more yesterday was bits and pieces like winning the ball back. I think she made 6 or 7 ball recoveries yesterday. And I think probably one of the things we've tended to sort of worry about with her historically has been the physical side of things, the physicality. And can she compete with players that are harrying and running at her? And she did that really well today. I think I think we're probably going to get onto it later, but I always think she captained certain players very well yesterday, who were maybe struggling a little bit. I thought she was brilliant. And I think once again, if we're talking about all of the front 6, I think Russo just looked phenomenal again. I think Russo just looked brilliant, and she assisted. She had a goal unfairly ruled out, still cut out what the issue was there. Which would have been another Zellum assist from a set piece, just phenomenal. But I think all of the front 6, if you say the three in the middle and the 3 out and out forward players were brilliant. Tooney maybe struggled a little bit, toughest game she's had, but we know perhaps our expectations of her are higher than maybe of others, because she is the face of Man United women's team. Let's be honest, and she's increasingly the face of the Lionesses. I think so. The pressure is on there, and I think Mark Skinner said she'd fight her own shadow if it meant she could win. So I think she's. I felt like she was feeling it most after the last game. She was maybe still carrying the disappointment of that and putting pressure on herself. But again, everyone offered something. Everyone contributed really well.
I'm just having a bit of banter with Sang in the comments. First of all, it's towards the end of the season, so I do want to shout out Sang. I do want to thank I don't know if you're on Twitter or not, so apologies if we do communicate on Twitter, but I don't recognise your Twitter account. But you've been here all season as a Chelsea fan, giving us a bit of banter, but also giving us some positive comments as well. So I think now's a good time to actually thank you for joining us this season. You've been on practically every show with us, so thank you very much. I will shout you out there, mate. You spoke about Charlie. Sorry, you supposed to spoke about Charlie. Charlie spoke about Katie Zellum, sorry. And I just want to shout out Katie as well, because the amount of space that she was created for herself, she always had about 2 or 3 yards of space, which made her obviously be able to get that ball and pick passes. And Short kind of said at the start of the season, that's something that was lacking. We was lacking a player who could get the ball off the defence and actually have time to look for that pass. And Hayley Ladd missed a few games at the start of the season, so she wasn't really doing that. Katie and Jackie weren't doing it at the start of the season, but I think yesterday was a fantastic performance on how you can actually get into space and actually make things happen. And I can see you lean forward toward the camera.
I'm not like, I know it's because I was bigging up last week as well. So it's not just she can do no wrong, but it also felt like yesterday she because we could hear a little bit from our side. And she was talking to them all the time, and she clearly wasn't going to let them think we'll just stroll to the end of the season. Like picking the ball up for a throw in, not waiting for the fullback and shouting to them, you need to move, somebody move, picking the ball up from the centre backs, turning around and telling them you need to move, come and give me an option. So wanted to keep the standards really, really high. And that was really apparent to me yesterday. Really led from the front.
I think that shows a captain as well, because we mentioned earlier about Tooney. I think Tooney and Martin had something yesterday. They just I've been there as a player when someone's if when you're playing bad, and Tooney's probably as you said before, the kind of attitude she's got, and Martin was giving her a lot of rightfully so. She was giving the ball away a hell of a lot, and there was a chance she gave a really poor pass to Katie, and it led to a West Ham counter-attack. And Skinner then got up and shouted something to her, and it was Katie that then went back to Skinner and Martin saying, "Look, just can't lay off for a little bit," because Tooney getting really annoyed. You could see it in her gestures to the bench and all kinds of things.
She went to the far side.
Yeah, she walked as far away as possible to the bench. But you could hear Kate, and I think Skinner said something like, "Oh, but she's giving away a bad pat," or something like that. And I think it was Katie trying to calm it down. And the instant Charlie said there, and Katie was on the ball right in front of us. I think it was Martha in front of somebody was in front of her, and Jackie was just a bit in front, like saying, "Oh, Katie, give me the." You could hear the shouts like, "Katie, give me the ball." And she said, "Well, move then." And it's like because they were just stood still next to defenders, and that's the communication you want. The only people I could hear on the pitch yesterday talking, obviously Tooney because she was angry, Katie and Mary Earps. You could hear her from the other side of the stadium. So it's good that, like Charlie said, we didn't just peter out. Try to keep the standards high, because go out on a high, especially at home.
John, your thoughts on the midfield three strikers yesterday?
Yeah, I thought midfield was good. I agree with the point. Charlie mentioned it's one of the best performances from Zell. I thought it was her best performance this season. I thought she didn't put her foot wrong. And as someone who is new to women's game this season, obviously she got a lot of criticism earlier in the season, and to be honest, I wasn't massive on it to begin with. But as the season has gone on, you don't carry it in agenda. You let your eyes see what's happening, that kind of thing. And I think she's possibly our most. She's probably the player who's got better the most as the season's gone on, in my opinion. And I think that she's a critical part in the midfield. I was saying to you, Charlie, after the game yesterday, that I actually think if we're going to progress further, she just needs a really good midfielder next to her to get the best out of her. And because I think at times it's like she has to do more than what she really have to at times. I think because she's taken a lot of the burden, it was perhaps affecting the game and therefore getting criticism. That's why I think she has a really good partner next to her. I mean, I do like Hayley Ladd, but she's obviously been played out of position at the moment. But you need someone in there to help her out as well. And I think if you have someone like that, her own game will get better as well. And I think that's what I would say. I think Jackie, yesterday, she had a decent game, and that, and obviously Tooney, I didn't think had the best game yesterday. I think she was rushing there. She's basically like the Bruno of the women's team in that she's one trying to, make something happen, and that I think at times it just needs someone to say, just calm down a bit. You don't have to do everything yourself. Just let everyone else get involved and that kind of thing. Because obviously yesterday, the fact is we scored 3 goals yesterday, and she was hardly involved in any of the goals. A lot of them were our wingers creating and scoring, and that's what I would say. It's like the wingers, Martha Thomas and Leah Galton, I thought was brilliant yesterday. I thought they both got a goal and assist each. Leslie didn't get a goal, but she was superb for the 3rd goal, and I think the 3 of them complimented each other yesterday, and that kind of thing. I think the first goal, obviously, Leah, I thought it was a bit of a heavy touch because she took it wide, where I think she should have, took it close to the goal to have a shot. But the first touch took wide, but then she put a good ball in for Martha to head it in. I think the second goal, if it was one of our players that put it in rather than the own goal, you think of the move for that goal. It was a superb goal. It was just unfortunate. It was the West Ham defender that put it in, and like I said, the 3rd goal was brilliant. But yeah, I think the midfield and the forward line were very good yesterday.
I want to bring the conversation back to Jackie then. We mentioned this last week, and John, I'll continue with yourself on this. Me and Charlie and Connor was like standing next to each other. We kind of discussed what happened, and we was looking out for it as well. What were your thoughts when Jackie came off the pitch? Did you see anything there that made you think that was a last home game?
Potentially. I think I did obviously notice the wave, like a lot of people. To be honest, I don't always see a wave in other games, so I don't. No, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, obviously, but if Charlie says she does do that, then obviously we don't know. I think Jackie, I think the way she was doing it, it did feel to me like it could potentially be a last game, maybe. But, only time will tell. And I just think with her, I was commenting about Zellen, need a good midfielder next. I think Jackie has done well at times, but I think there needs to be a little bit more consistency there if she is to stay with us. And obviously, Skinner will have to make a judgment, because I think you got to be honest. I think she's probably getting the games because of the defence. We don't have many centre halves, therefore Hayley Ladd has to drop back. And that means she getting a game. If we have, centre halves, I reckon Ladd will be playing in the midfield, So it's one of them. Obviously, the club and Skinner will have to make a decision whether she's or not. I do like Jackie. I think she's a very good player in that. But you've got to also look at future. If you are going to compete going forward, you've got to make some decisions regarding some players, whether they are good enough in the long haul and that kind of thing. And I think Jackie's done okay, but if she is to stay, I think she does need to go up another level if she's going to be here long term, in my opinion.
So let me kind of say what I saw. So just in case you didn't see the match or the cameras didn't go on the FA player or whatever, wherever it was broadcasted, she gave a wave. No, she didn't give a wave. First of all, she gave a bit of a clap to the crowd, and then she suddenly stopped and faced the south stand and clapped those, and then she clapped us where we was kind of standing, like the singing section, clapped us separately. So there was like 3 separate waves there. And then when she come and sat there, and obviously she sits like very close to where we stand, And I think she looks over there. That's kind of what I saw. I think it was probably a little bit more exaggerated than normal. However, even if you was staying, it's your last home game, so why wouldn't you clap the crowd? So I can see both sides of it. Charlie, I'll bring you first, and then Connor, if you just want to jump straight in after Charlie, what were your thoughts on that?
I think she's off, by the way. I do think she's leaving. But I just didn't think her exit was that different to normal. I think she usually tends to show quite a lot of appreciation to the crowd. I feel like she has always done that, actually, obviously since the crowds have been back. There was probably a little bit more to it when she sat down, actually, because we're really close to them, aren't we? We're literally the closest people to them. And she looked a little bit emotional then.
I was going to say that, but I didn't know if it was just because she was like red in the face.
It was that moment. It was then for me. It was then rather than how she leaves the field. But yeah, I expect her to be off somewhere else. I think we've got a like for like replacement in Vilda, and then it's just whoever else we sort of bring in. I'm kind of like it's like when you really like players, it's sad when they go. I'm more upset about Honor, really, just because I think she's so young and she's world class and she will only get better. And it'd be a shame if she left because she didn't think we were going to meet the same sort of career aspirations that she has. I imagine that's not it. It's more about going home. But I think if Jackie's going, she's going. It's a shame. We just eyes forward. What comes next? Make sure they're as good, if not better. But yeah, there was a little bit more. I agree, John. When she sat down, I thought, oh, there's maybe something there. Sort of a giveaway that she's off. Obviously, Man United try to be so secretive about everything. Like if she's going, just tell her she's going. If she's not going, say she's not going. I just find the whole cloak and dagger thing bizarre, because what usually happens is someone else lets the cat out of the bag, like they have with Sina Brune. It doesn't matter anyway. So I just wish they'd say one way or the other. Just come nosy, more than anything.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, we're kind of backing up my point here. The fact that we're talking about it, what I said yesterday in the pub afterwards, that she could have done anything and everyone would have analysed it and look at her eye movement there. Let's not forget that was one of our highest attendances of the season at LSV. So she's always going to give an extra bit, because of the crowd attendance. So yeah, like I said, she could have done anything. I would have loved for her to have really played it up to the cameras though and really made it like it looked like she was leaving, because that's what I'd have done. I just took the mick. But yeah, I actually don't think she's going. I think they're both. Honor's the one that's going to be difficult because I think Barca are really pushing that, and will probably put a big fee in front of United for that as well. Jackie, I think, I agree. I think Jackie will stay another year at least, just one more, just to see where we are next season and then move on. But with Honor, that's going to be the tough one. But yeah, I don't read too much into it. Like I said, I think when she came off, she looked shattered, to be fair. A lot of the players when they came off did look tired, but yeah, I don't read too much into it. I think it was biggest crowd attendance, I think, bar the City at home game. She always does that kind of wave anyway. I don't read too much into it. But she's not going to, until the end of the season, she's not going to come out and say, oh yeah, I'm leaving. She's not going to tell any of us. She's not going to show anything on the pitch. Because if you actually have a look back, if people are looking at that wave thinking she's off, have a look at the Old Trafford game when she walked around the pitch and was waving at fans, then you could argue that was a similar thing as well. But yeah, I don't read too much into it. She might still go. I might be completely wrong if she is leaving, but I highly doubt it.
I will say one more thing as well. The first person that Martin Hull went to after the game was Honor, and he put his arm around Honor and had a bit of a chat with Honor for quite a bit as well. So I don't know if Honor was emotional. I'm just going to throw that one out there. Obviously, Connor just mentioned that she's out of contract, and I do look at these things, because if I was the manager and you've got a player that you really care about to look after, that they're going to be emotional playing their last game. And I'm thinking, okay, so what would I do if I was a manager? Who would I go to first? And these kind of things are what crosses my mind. You go over there and give them a bit of comfort or give them a bit of advice. So these are things that I was looking out for. I do agree with what's just been said. I think we do analyse these a hell of a lot. It could be absolutely anything. But obviously, as fans, especially Man United fans, we want the news before the news even being made. We want to know everything, and this is it, isn't it? Yeah. I'm sure there's Ellie in the comments saying, "Do you think Diane is going?" Shall we just answer that question before we move on to player of the match and Skinner's speech at the end as well? So we'll quickly go around the table. We'll start off with yourself, John. Diane Caldwell, can you? The contract is up at the end of this season, or loan spell. I'm not too sure if it's a contract or a loan, whatever. But can you?
Yeah.
You think she's going to go?
I mean, she's not paid much recently, so I think maybe she might leave. But obviously, we do need cover in that area, and I can only, if we were to keep her, only be as a bit part player, I think, you know, so it's a case of whether Diane would be happy with that. I'm sure if we did want to keep her, I do think we will want to keep her, but obviously, as discussed, there is a lot of, you know, issues in that area in terms of players being injured and that, and we do need a lot of cover in that area if you know, some of our players are going to be injured. So on that basis, maybe Diane might stay another year, another 6 months, whatever. And so I think there's a possibility that she might stay on that basis. But then again, it depends if she's happy to have a bit of power role of that kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Millie Turner as well. That could be another thing to look out for. But yeah, and so what was the second question again? Sorry.
I think that's pretty much it. Just Diane, whether or not she'd be staying or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Connor, your thoughts on that one?
I spoke about this on last week's show, you know, about sentimentality. I think that's the question you got to ask. We got to act like a big club. If we really want to make ambitions for next, I know we're going to talk about Skinner's speech in a moment. He talked about really pushing on next season. Would another top 3 club be keeping Diane on? I don't think they would, personally. I think she's done incredibly well. She's slotted in well. But the one thing I will say, if she does leave, we've got to replace that. We can't go into next season with only 3 centre-halves. You know, we need, especially with the injury record that Mannion and Millie have got, you know, we don't even know if they're going to be ready for the start of next season yet. So if we don't keep Diane on, we need to replace not just with 1, but with 2. And we need to make sure we get it right. But if she stays, fair play to her. I said there's no room for sentimentality, but I do want to see her play at Old Trafford. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? As fans, we want to see her have that moment at Old Trafford. But the kind of the business side is thinking it doesn't make sense to keep her on unless, like I said, we get another centre-half. So it will all depend on who Skinner's identified as his targets. And like we said before, whether he's going to get the back in for those players as well.
Charlie, your thoughts on this one?
I think so much, like we said, like Connor said, so much is riding on the summer. So obviously we've got 2 really good centre backs who unfortunately are injured, and now Aoife's had this second ACL. It's ACL, isn't it? And that can now rear its ugly head potentially more often than not. She might end up becoming the Ledley King of women's football. Only plays games, doesn't do training. Like it could be that, couldn't it? With Millie, there doesn't seem to be a time frame at all. Don't really know what's wrong with her. Just there's something wrong with the artery in her neck. Like that's it. Like it's not even like we could surmise and go away and find out. So even if they got 2 new centre backs, it could still be that if Diane's not there, you're still short, based on who's fit and readily available. But I'm the same as Connor. There is that as a girl who grew up in a room myself, just full of Man United posters. There is that bit of me that and you talk about sentimental, like putting a player in out of sentimentality to play a massive game at Old Trafford that we might have to win to get us into the Champions League. Yes, like there's that bit of me that wants us to play in that game. But I think going forward, if we're going to compete on all fronts, she's not the one going forward, is she? She's not the one potentially going to get us there. Nice little coaching job they could give her. I'd give her a little coaching role with the devs, pop with Charlotte Healy.
Yeah,
the dream team.
Absolutely. Yeah, if she doesn't want to leave it, she's happy being 4th or potentially 5th choice.
And I bet she is. 34 years old or whatever it is. I bet she is, yeah.
Finish her career there. You know, she might have to take a bit of a cut in wages or lower wages than most, but, you know, she might be happy with that. Sang, I think we'll do a separate show on this one because I don't want to rush through that question. I think it's an important question to do. So tune in and we'll probably do that when the season's ended, like maybe our 1st or 2nd week after the season ends. So we'll do that one. I can see people in the comments answering that. I just want to talk a bit about play of the match and then Skinner's comments on the field, and then if anyone saw the interview afterwards as well. So just starting off with yourself, then Connor, let's start off with you. Play of the match. There's a few contenders when you win 3-0. it's a bit more easy to choose than the previous game. I can see him thinking, so I'll give mine first. I'm going to go for Katie Zeller on this one. Now, she didn't score, or I don't think she got any assists. I'm not too sure. I can't remember who assisted. But I think one of her assists was cancelled, wasn't it? Did she assist when the goal was disallowed? I think she might have done.
The ghost foul.
Yeah, that was the one, yeah. So that would have been an assist. But no, I just think just purely down to controlling the game, not just because of her positioning and passing, but as Connor mentioned, she has got more vocal. And she does, to me, I think she just directed that game in a very composed way. Charlie, you mentioned it before about composure in Katie's element. I think we actually saw that yesterday. So what I'm kind of thinking, Charlie, I'll come to you on this one. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. No, sorry, Charlie.
All right, sorry.
Yes.
Did you say Charlie? I thought you said John.
Yeah, I did. No,
I'm still getting deaf. Right, okay. But John obviously knew you were me because he didn't talk.
Yes.
My first choice is Katie, which is no surprise. I think based on what I've already said and what I was saying at the game as well. She was. I think John, you kept saying things to kind of like, we need someone to drop deep to get the ball, and then someone did, and I was like, and who has? And it was bits and pieces like that. It's not always about scoring all the goals, is it? Obviously they're vital. But she was doing all sorts yesterday. She was defending the back in front of the back line really well. 6 ball recoveries, a passing accuracy was phenomenal. She was pinging the balls out that were getting to the person that was then able to assist. She was managing really well a bit of argy-bargy between player and coaching staff, which happens when you're playing elite sport and everyone's under pressure. So I thought she was really good. I'd written down 4. I'd go with Katie, but I'd written Martha Thomas down as well. I think mentality-wise, that was good for her to come back after the tricky game she'd had, where she obviously blamed herself for the fact that we hadn't won, with a goal and an assist, and again worked really hard from the front. Honour's phenomenal, but we say that every time. Like she never drops less than an 8. Worked incredibly hard, and obviously special shout out for Maria for sort of taking 3 or 4 for the team to stop West Ham attacks. But all in all, I'd go Katie. Yeah, 85% pass completion, 7 out of 8 ground duels won. So the physicality was much improved. 6 ball recoveries, assisting the assister. For me, it's a shoo-in really.
Cool. Okay. John, yourself?
Yeah, I agree. I think Katie was absolutely brilliant yesterday. So I think possibly be a clean sweep with that. But Martha Thomas had a good game. I think Leah as well, Leah Goldson, she had a very good game as well. I thought she was a threat throughout, and she crossed well for the first goal. She also the third goal was a brilliant finish from her, sliding finish, and I think after the third goal, there was that move that we had where Suni was denied by a good save by their keeper, and I think Leah did well for that to pull it back and that kind of thing. So I'll give a shout out to Leah, but I think Katie's. I think she was clear winner yesterday.
Okay, Connor, is it a clean sweep?
No, unfortunately. Just to answer TJ's comment, her home and away split, I think she's only scored once away from home, and I think that was Everton in the league. It might have been in the Conti Cup. We won 2-0 down at their place, and she scored away then. But all of her other goals have come at home.
Scored against Leicester. I think she scored against Leicester in the league. That might have been the only one in the league.
Yeah, Villa as well. She scored, I believe, when we won 5-0 as well. So yeah, a 3-1 split, I think it is. No, I'm going to say Honour because I said before, when you talk about the players we could potentially lose in the summer, I think you take Honour out of our side, we don't get half the amount of attacks we create. Yeah. Because the only reason we get so far down the pitch, especially on that right-hand side, is because of Honour's ability to keep hold of the ball and actually beat a player. Her and Martha Thomas seem to have this very good link-up as well. Martha Thomas and Katie are very close seconds, by the way. But I just think Honour's just levels above, what anyone that we've got in those positions. I think probably you could go with again when you're looking at player of the season. Obviously, I've not given mine fully yet, but again, she's going to be up there because I just really, I know everyone does, but I just think, for me anyway, she's so highly. I just think she's levels above what we've got in this team, and I don't think we get half the amount of chances if you take on her out. Which is why when I was talking to Nat earlier about this, give her absolutely everything, to break the bank for her to keep her on that right hand side, because defensively very good, but going forward, like I said, crossing ability is brilliant, and just keeping hold of the ball, and also recoveries as well. She's one of the only players that when she loses the ball really tracks back at full pace. A lot of our players don't do that, and I don't know why. But yeah, Martha's a close second. I thought she ran the channels really well. Obviously took a goal, and as Charlie said, the kind of the bounce back after last weekend, and Katie as well. Like, I agree with Charlie. Probably one of her best games in a United shirt. Controlled the game, and her passing ability was top notch as well. I think that set up the first goal. Actually, it was her long ball over to Leah in the first place, obviously, and then Leah played it across. But unfortunately, no, it's not going to be a clean sweep. I'm going to give it to Honor, but only just.
I'm aware that the men's team have kicked off, so we do want to watch that. But just before we go, Skinner came onto the pitch at full time, as you'd expect, last home game of the season. Really emotional to see him and his daughter on there as well. Charlie, just what are your thoughts on it? I know it's only like a 2-3 minute kind of generic speech, but 100% he means everything he says. And this is obviously a massive job for him, but it's also a very big passion as well. Just your thoughts, and then we'll end the show.
Yeah, I think he spoke really well. It was a nice sort of brave heart, bit of a rallying cry. Clearly wants to be successful. Is clearly not resting or not happy with fourth, and talks about, we know what we need to do to push this club onto the next level so that we're competing. So we know he wants to do that. That's what he wants. He wants to be competing for trophies. And I believe him when he says that's what he wants with the players that he's got, and he wants it for the fans. So that's why I said the summer is big. If the summer is poor, if recruitment is poor, it's nothing to do with him, I don't think. And he does have his faults. He's not perfect, but he does want the club to be successful because he realises now how big it is.
Yeah. It's a great way to end the show, guys. Thank you very much for tonight. It was really enjoyable to talk about a game where, we actually had a real good performance and get the win. And obviously now it's still lead us in with that chance in the final game of the season. If City lose and we win, we make Champions League. So it's nice to go into the final game where we could actually check on our phones and we've got something to play for, which is absolutely great. Thank you to everybody in the comments. We have got shows throughout the rest of the week, so stay tuned to our Twitter and subscribe if you're new. And we shall see you again soon. Thank you, guys.